When we arrived after our bus ride from that church, I was just amazed because there were all these black-headed people. And I thought, this is really strange. And I said to my mother, I said, well, where are we? I mean, where are the trees and where are the tents? And she said, well, this is a different kind of camp. It's for Japanese people. And I said, well, I don't understand that. I want to go home. She said, well, we can't go home. And I said, well, where's Daddy? She said, well, I don't know, but apparently he came in another busload or something. He never did appear. And so we got off, and my mother said, okay, now we've got to go get our bedding. And so we got our bedding, and when we get back, we got a blanket, and there were already beds there. There were metal beds with a mattress. On the way back, this woman stopped us and she said, boy, you're lucky. And I said, what? She said, you're lucky. She said, well, look at, you have a bed and you have bedding, and look at what you've got. And she said, we have to sleep in horse stables. And I said, what? My mother said, what? I mean, I didn't say anything to her. She said, well, the first people that came got put into the horse stables. And there was still muck left there, and we had to clean that all out. And you can just imagine how that would be like. They whitewashed the walls, but no, the stench must have been just awful. And so we lived in the orange section. But when we got back, there was Dad sleeping on a bed. And we said, oh, we got our bedding here. And my mother just said, don't say anything. And so I didn't. But get to bed. So we went to bed, and I asked my mother, I said, well, where's my doll and my panda bear? I used to sleep with a little panda bear. And she said, oh, I was the one who I had to make a choice. And I said, well, you know, you didn't pack my favorite doll. And she said, well, I had to make a choice. And I was all alone. You know, your dad didn't help me, and I just had to leave all these things there. And the morning comes, and I remember these bells, the noise, and we wondered what they were, and they were the mess bell gongs and whatever they found. And ours, they had a big pipe that this man was, he was ringing it with, I don't know what he was ringing it. He was going dong, 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 and that meant breakfast is ready at the Orange Mess. And so all through camp, they had these different signals and different pitches going on. I want to tell you a story about the first night in Santa Anita. It was a strange night. Searchlights swept our window. Sometimes the light flooded the room, outlining the cots against the slatted walls, and then they drained away, leaving ghostly images. Sometimes the light seeped in slowly, probing like a gelatinous creature. Sometimes the streams of light appeared red, resembling blood. Light, dark, over and over throughout the night. Footsteps passed by, some marching angrily, some shuffling quietly. Voices from all directions disturbed my sleep. They mumbled, they cried, babies wailed, skeletons lay beneath the barrack. A bony hand thrust up a white surrender flag. Pine sap oozed from the fresh-cut lumber, and its sharp tang enveloped me. When I awoke, I found beads of pitch tangled in my hair. Morning was a confusion of banging doors, bawling babies, shouts in Japanese and English, and a search for toothbrushes and towels, and a dash for the bathroom. My father did not get up. We tiptoed out. Clangs and bongs assaulted us. Each mess hall had its own signal. Morse codes rang out from all sectors of the camp. Our mess hall was a beehive. When we returned to our room, my father was gone. Where did he go? I asked, but of course, my mother didn't know. Probably just go eat. He'll be back soon. But neither statement was true. He didn't return until dark. Almost every day that summer, my father was an elusive shadow, and to this day, I don't know where he went or what, or whether he was going out to find something to drink or talk to friends or whatever. Once I asked him where he went. "I don't like it here," he replied, looking at me vacantly, and paused for a second, and then he said, "I don't like it here." Well, I don't either. I hate it, hoping that my agreement would win a tiny bit of reassurance. Life is no fun. This camp is, and his voice trailed away. He walked off. My mother chipped in. "Well, it's better that he's gone." Better that he's gone? What did she mean? This man is my father. He belongs with us, here. I felt that he was becoming less a person and more that number, 18286, and a total stranger. My father's spirit seemed to have vanished. That no, it wasn't just Daddy. All of us were gone. Physically true, we had left our lives in Los Angeles. This empty feeling emerged from a space deep inside my body. It welled up, spread like a chill, and infected my entire being, except there was nothing there. Gone. The word was so empty and final. Gone. We kept hearing stories about being killed by the soldiers, that they had orders to shoot us if we were out beyond curfew, which was, I think, 9 or 10, something like that. And so there was always this fear of going outside after dark. And the searchlights kept lit all the time, and they would follow people if they were outside. I'd like to read you another story. This is called The Light Searching, about my fear of being killed after curfew. One night I awoke with an urge to use the bathroom. The toilets were 4 barracks away. I peeked out a window. A door banged, a dog barked. A dog? People weren't allowed to bring pets. It began to howl, and a man called out. Then silence. A child cried out, "Mama, Mama." Footsteps passed beneath my window. Maybe if I concentrated, I wouldn't have to go. Was the guard in the tower moving the searchlight all night long? Was he doing this by hand? Was it a mechanical? Was he alone? Well, it didn't work. I had to go to the toilet. I felt for my shoes and padded outside. I was only a few steps from the edge of my barrack. Then, wham! A brilliant light slammed into me. For a second, I didn't know what it was. It felt like a physical blow. I whirled around and started back, but no, I couldn't go back. I'd wet my pants. My heart pounded. A spotlight seared in my face, step by step. Another step, one more step. When I finally reached the bathroom, I was trembling. I pressed against the door. Calm down, calm down. He won't shoot. Even in my hurry, I remembered my mother's warning. Dirty germs on toilets. You can get something and die. So I swiped the seat with a piece of paper and laid down some sheets before sitting down. I sat a long time, hoping that the guard would forget about me. Naked toilet bowls squatted in a row like upside-down plungers, ready to suck all the darkness into the sewers. A faucet dripped into the metal sink with a hollow echo. A cockroach scurried across the floor. Now, how to get back? Wait until the light rake passed and then dash out and stay close to the barracks? If I screamed, would someone rescue me? I took a deep breath, opened my mouth, but nothing came out but just, I had to go back. I cracked open the door. The light swept by. Could I sneak along and sidestep against the barracks? My heart was racing. I was scared, but I also resented the guard and the intrusion of the light. So I flung open the door and strode into the middle of the beam. Walk normally. Don't look scared. The guard trained his light on me. I walked back, step by step, step by step, down the middle of the road. It was so far. 4 barracks felt like a mile. As soon as I reached the barrack, the light swept past and into the hollow black, but I was still alive. I climbed into bed. Had it been a dream? Had that been real? No. The searchlight still blinked across the window, over and over and over. I closed my eyes. The rhythm flickered against my eyelids. Light, dark, light, dark. The beat went on and on. When I fell asleep, I dreamed about hovering above an ocean. Skeletal fish lay inert, then thrashed about as predators nibbled away at them. A soldier shot at them with a pop gun. I dropped into the water and sank slowly into its layers. Clear, muddy, clear, muddy. I rocked back and forth as if I were in a cradle. After a half year, about 6 months, in Santa Anita, we were given orders to pack up again and move to the permanent relocation center, and ours was in Colorado. So I finally got my train ride, not the bus ride. But I knew that this time we were not going camping. We were prisoners, and that the government had ordered this for us. As we were boarding the train, Miss Nakasuji, my teacher, handed me a diary. And I looked at it and I said, well, what is this? And she said, well, this will keep you still. You're such a gasa person. You can't keep still. That I thought this would distract you a little bit. And so she just walked away, and I didn't even thank her. But from then on, I kept a diary. And although we were asked to put the shades down on the train, and this was not to prevent us from looking out, but it was to prevent people outside noticing that we were all Japanese. And so we kept the shades down. But every time we stopped, I would peek out and notice that this is Barstow, this is Loveland, this is whatever. And I would write this all down in my diary. And eventually I just kept my window up a little bit so I could see what we were passing. And I just noticed that the landscape kept changing, and it kept getting drier and drier. And when we got to Colorado, we were told that our barrack, our block, was not finished. And so we had to sit and wait in the train for 3 days before the apartments were done. But they let a contingent of women go into the camp and look it over. And they came back and they said, oh, it's much bigger than Santa Anita and much roomier, and the barracks are better. But, you know, better is relative. My father hated the camp, I suppose, as a lot of us did. And at the first opportunity, he kept leaving. Since there was a labor shortage in the US and all over, I suppose, because of the war, and the young men were leaving to war. They were becoming soldiers. They were asking the evacuees to come and take their places. And so if you got permission to leave, to find a job, to look for a job in a safe area, not away from the coast, then you could do that. And so my dad left often. I mean, he was gone for months and then would reappear without notice. I mean, this was the day before telephones. We didn't have phones, we didn't have telegraph, we didn't have anything. He would just appear and then disappear over and over again. So he was gone from camp more than he was in camp. And I know he went to New York City, he went to New Jersey, he went to Pennsylvania, he went to Chicago, he went to someplace in Kansas. And these were all places that were advertising jobs for chauffeuring and for help with farms and for help with chick sexing and were all these things that the young men used to do. But one thing I really hated about Colorado was the fact that I couldn't just go outside all the time. California, there was sun all the time. And winters were really bad with the dust. And when the government had come, they had denuded all of the vegetation. There's like the cacti and the sagebrush and the natural sunflowers that were there, and caused all this, like in the middle of America, the dust to come and the wind to blow. And one day it was just so bad that we actually had to quit school, and a parent came and led us to a kind of safety building where our parents had to come and get us. And even today, when there's a bad dust storm, I can feel it in my chest. One of the great, beautiful parts of being in Colorado was experiencing snow. And I still get this feeling that first flakes that come down are just amazing. I mean, you think of where they've traveled to, and they've come down as this beautiful shape. And I used to go out, well, I went out on this first time that I had ever seen snow, and I caught it in my hand and just watched it melt, and that was a miracle. And it still is a miracle. If ever you go out on the first snowfall and watch it on your sleeve and how it melts, you know, this is just wonderful. And so there was that bad and the good coming along. But it was also hard growing up for those 4 years that I was in Amachi, because I turned 13. I spent, 10, 11, 12, 13 in camp. And when I came out, I was a foot taller. I spent half a year in Santa Anita and 3.5 years in Amachi. And part of it was wonderful, part of it was terrible, but it felt like my mother was saying, is shikata ga nai. This is the way that life was, and it was how I remembered it.